morning.
Good morning. If I could start by addressing your question, Madam Treasurer. You asked if the superintendent called for the audit to MSDE, and I would say this: I was one of the original signatories on the letter to the governor requesting the audit, and the superintendent was not in favor of the audit. It wasn't until public pressure, the governor, the entire Prince George's County House of Delegates, the NAACP, senators, everybody in the community asked for the audit. Literally, as the state board was in their meeting, about to vote on whether or not to do the audit, Dr. Maxwell and my colleagues submitted a letter once the decision was already made. And so to say that they requested the audit, literally as the state board was meeting, after the governor, after the NAACP, after the entire Prince George's County House of Delegates demanded the audit, they said, oh, okay, well, we're okay with there being an audit. So I just wanted to make sure you had that perspective. And I can send you the timeline on that and all the documentation to support what I just said. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Edward Burrows, and I'm a member of the Prince George's County Board of Education. I was first elected to the school board at age 15 as a student member. I was then elected as a full member in 2010, and I've stayed on the board for nearly a decade because I love our school system, and I want our students to have everything that they need in order to be successful. I come here today to speak on behalf of the students that I honestly believe have incurred injustice against them. I want to thank the state for addressing our concerns with the type of urgency and care that this issue deserves. Boosting the graduation rate was Dr. Maxwell's top achievement as CEO. He, his team, and the county executive paraded around the county boasting about these rates. We were all so ecstatic. Dr. Maxwell received a compensation package of over $450,000, largely based on these rates. We now know that the community was hoodwinked. And in my opinion, every single student that was allowed to graduate who did not meet basic requirements in order to make adults look good had their civil rights violated. In our initial letter to you, Governor Hogan, and to the state board, we wrote that whistleblowers at almost every level in PGCPS have clear and convincing evidence that PGCPS has graduated students who did not meet the Maryland State Department of Education graduation requirements. And when we first sent that letter, they denied it. They said it was completely and utterly false, by the way. The report showed exactly that. In fact, it showed that in 2016, 3.6% of students didn't meet the basic requirements for graduation, and in 2017, that number almost doubled to 6%. It also showed that in 2015 school year, we had 37.6% of students that had excessive absences, and then in 2017, that number increased to 43.3%. It also showed that 24.5% of students, they could not determine if they should have graduated or not. The report also found that documents were changed and manipulated before and during the investigation in order to cover up wrongdoing. And the county still is refusing to hold school system leadership accountable. The school system leadership has celebrated that the audit found that this was all school-based, that somehow all of these principals and all of these schools and all parts of the county were all fraudulently graduating students in the exact same way at the exact same time. Dr. Maxwell and my board, the board leadership, continued to call this poor record keeping. And if you look on page 44 of the audit report, poor record keeping is only 2 sections. District does not adhere to policies and procedures, it's 5 sections. Irregularities, like absolute wrongdoing, is another 5 sections. But the only sections that they're willing to talk about publicly is the poor record keeping, which is the least that they found. I would submit to this body that forcing teachers to change grades against their will is not poor record keeping. Forcing counselors to stay in buildings and tamper with records days before the investigators came in is not poor record keeping. Graduating students who are truant and have no evidence of makeup work is not poor record keeping. And lowering the bar for our smart and capable students is not poor record keeping. If you look very closely at some of this stuff, you'll see students who were literally truant, and they were allowed to come in and do a crossword puzzle in order to graduate. That is lowering the bar, and that is not for record keeping. What board leadership and Dr. Maxwell will have you believe, Governor, Comptroller, and Treasurer, is that no one knew anything about this in central office. Which leaves this question in my mind. If you follow their logic, you would have to believe that all of these students were impacted, and all of these schools, all of these principals, on his top achievement, and no one knew anything about any of this stuff. What responsibility does the CEO, leadership, and central office have to provide basic governance and oversight? Best case scenario. Best case scenario is that this is incompetence and willful neglect of duty, which you and the state board have the right to remove the superintendent and members of the board for. Worst case scenario, which is probably, which I know is a little more accurate, that this is just not organic. This didn't just happen. If our leaders cannot be honest with the findings, how can we expect them to be honest in moving forward? I will tell you that Alvarez did a solid job with the numbers and the records. But I can tell you that since the investigation has concluded, it's been very clear that there were some things missed, and there was additional information that could help you in a further investigation. And I say that with absolute confidence. If you remember, Governor, when we first wrote you the letter, the school district, the county executive said everything, this was all false. And we knew that we had the evidence, and we had the whistleblowers to prove that it was happening. And I'm telling you with that same level of certainty that central office, there's a lot more to the story, and I'll just leave it at that for now. This is not organic. And I'll tell you that more state intervention is necessary. And I'll just say this, we don't have, the 4 people who signed that letter are 25 and under. And it's just 4 of us, all recent graduates of the system. We don't have the entire county government writing us talking points or the entire school system writing us talking points. We don't have teams of lawyers coming up with stuff. All we have is the truth. And all we have are statements from teachers who have been forced to do things, students who have been shortchanged, and the truth. And so we desperately ask for more state intervention.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. When the members of the board, including yourself, sent us the letter, we didn't take immediate action, even though we were very concerned because the county government administration, the county school system, and the chairman of your school board all denied it. And it was only a minority of the board that sent us the letter. But after the unanimous representation of every single elected official to the House of Delegates from Prince George's County signed a letter, and the NAACP signed a letter, and we saw the cover-up and the threatening of whistleblowers. That's when we asked the state board to intervene. But it all started with you and some of your colleagues. So I want to thank you for bringing all of this to everyone's attention.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you also. Because it's not easy. Everybody wants to go along and get along. And thank you for doing this. The treasurer's right, and this is a problem that is not as you described, but is, for whatever reason, is present in other parts of the state. We should look at it. And frankly, you give me some hope if you mention that most of your co-signers are millennials.
All of us.
Yeah, thank you. This is the greatest generation that the world has ever seen, and it's worldwide. People your age. And you're going to ask that changes be made. And it's not, in our country, partisan, Republican, or Democrat. You guys aren't interested in that. You're interested in the results. And I'm delighted that you all stuck to it. And I think, what you've done is going to redound to your credit down the road and to your generation's credit. And I thank you for not just being part of one side or the other side, but saying, hey, we're here to do something for the people. And hats off to you. Don't ever apologize, and don't ever, even if you end up perhaps being a little bit over the top. Hey, been there and done that. Mr. Burrows, we can get out.
just add one thing. The exact same kinds of complaints came out in Baltimore City, and there's been a long time problem that's been growing there. The difference is that they went to their Baltimore City School Board, and the local board did agree to investigate. I believe that investigation is still underway, and we're anxious to see the results. But in Prince George's, when the county refused to do so, that's when you asked us to step in.
And Governor, the board is not functioning properly. The county executive selects our board leadership. I mean, he chose his
They report to him.
Yeah, he chose his former brother-in-law. And so when they say, okay, internal audit could do this investigation. Well, internal audit reports to the board chair. The board chair reports directly to the county executive. And so there's just
Which the law was changed in order to do that because it doesn't happen anywhere else in the state.
In 2013, absolutely. Disenfranchising elected members. And, the appointed board chair has more authority than the elected members, which is extremely unfortunate.
But thank you very much.
Governor, I think this is a serious issue. I think it's an issue we'll hear more about after the board and the system have been able to finish and make public their report for which they were given 60 days. Mr. Burrows, I appreciate hearing from you, but I think it's a little early to hear the whole thing. You're making allegations in which we have no basis.
Well, these are not allegations. There was an investigation conducted that we're voting on today to pay for the contract that found the widespread wrongdoing throughout nearly every school in the entire system. So it's not just allegations.
I don't disagree with
the allegations came up when he first raised them, and we didn't take immediate action because we didn't have facts. Now we have facts.
Oh, really? And I can tell you that the reason that we were so sure with our initial allegations and in this report is because of the quality of our whistleblowers. And
who were all threatened.
Yeah. Madam Treasurer, I can tell you with that same certainty that more will come out related to this that will show, at the very least, that people in very high levels of the system knew that this was taking place and did not act at minimum.
Oh, and perhaps led to cover-up.
Well, absolutely.
These, I don't know whether that's true or not.
And we aren't waiting until the end of the month, by the way. On Tuesday, the leadership of the NAACP is coming to me with very serious concerns about the county still not taking the findings of the audit seriously and calling for more action from the state.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sonia Williams, Prince George's County Board of Education, District 9.